Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about, can you negotiate your own personal injury settlement? Now, this may come as a shock to you, but the answer is it depends. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Point is, that's like the attorney answer. Like, if you don't give the attorney answer, what's the point? There's more to that. But anyway, the point is, it really does depend in all things in life. And we'll talk about these issues. So I want you to be well educated. That's the point of these videos. This is what I do. This is why I do it, is to help educate you. I want you to have a better life. Speaking of which, if I go live, this is when I go live at 11 o'clock on Monday through Friday. I unfortunately do have things that occasionally pop up that get in the way. So I do it as often as I can. I'm looking to do it even more in the future because I want to help you even more. So if you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help businesses and people thrive. And that's what we're going to do. That's why we're here. So let's get started, shall we? All right. So the reason why it depends, because and we're going to talk about each one of these issues about why it depends on whether you should negotiate your own personal injury settlement, is it's very simple. If these factors are true, or if you can and make these work, then yes, you can negotiate your own personal injury settlement. But the actual question is, should you? Okay, so I want you to think about those thoughts as, should you negotiate your own? There's a difference between can and should, obviously. I want you to think about all of these things as we're discussing each one of them, because I want you to have the best outcome possible. Now, I get no benefit from this other than you watching my video, so take it for what it's worth. Other personal injury attorneys, consider the source, right? They have a vested interest in telling you to hire them. I'm not doing that. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I want you to get the best outcome, whether you hire me or whether you hire somebody else, because I want you to have the best outcome. That's the point of this. So, number one, so while technically, yes, you can negotiate your own personal injury settlement, there's a lot of caveats involved with that. And the first one is, does the accident have clear liability? Meaning, if someone hits you, okay, is it possible that their employer could be liable as well? Is it possible that there's a third party that might be liable as well? So you can't just simply look at it as the singular situation, like especially if you got involved in a truck accident where someone was out, in their big rig doing on the freeway, and so they're employed by somebody else, and therefore there's a possibility there that the other party could be liable for that person's actions. An attorney is going to take a look at that factor and go, okay, yeah, there's possibility here for better compensation than what you would have gotten had this other fact not been true. So when I say, does the accident have clear liability, that means that it's not in dispute. Like, you don't have to fight with the insurance company about the liability of it. It's clear. It's obvious. The person admitted liability. That's a big one, which, as I've said repeatedly, don't admit liability if you're ever involved in a car accident, because that can have really big repercussions. If it comes out that facts later support you answering that, that's different. But a lot of times people will answer in the heat of the moment, and then it's impossible to put that proverbial genie back in the bottle. It's impossible to unring that bell. Once you've admitted liability, you can always admit liability later. You just can't back up and unadmit it if you say it. So be very careful there. So does the accident have clear liability? Is the other party clearly at fault? Don't know, but that's a question. If it has clear liability, you probably can negotiate your own settlement, as far as, because the money it's not going to be hard to prove who did it. There was clear liability, or the other party that hasn't watched my videos hasn't admitted liability, so therefore there's liability. The next thing is, How are your injuries? Are they catastrophic? Is it possible that you're in a hospital bed for the rest of your life? What are your injuries? Do you have a lot of soft tissue damage, backache, neck ache, arms, but you have all of them intact, right? What are your injuries? If you have minimal injuries, but keep in mind some of these other factors when you're doing it. If you have minimal injuries, then it's going to be easier to negotiate that settlement because there's not a lot to fight about. But if you have catastrophic injuries, or the people that you're working with, your loved ones have catastrophic injuries, things where you've lost limbs or abilities to do things, the more catastrophic the injury, the more likely the insurance company is going to fight you on it because they don't want to be on the hook for $1 million or however many million, whatever it is. They don't want to be on the hook. The greater the amount of damages or possible damages in the accident, the more likely the insurance company is going to fight you on it. If for no other reason, they want to delay payment. Okay? It's not always about that they won't pay you, it's that they won't pay you when you need it. So that's a different story. By the way, this is a great time to mention insurance companies are not your friends. They're insurance companies. Their goal is to provide a return for their shareholders. That's their goal. So you need to keep that in mind while you're negotiating because it isn't going to be fair. They don't fight fair. That's not their goal. Just because you've paid them doesn't mean they will pay for your injuries, or vice versa. Just because somebody else has paid them doesn't mean they'll pay for your injuries. There's a lot of things that go into that. So do not be naive about it. Insurance companies will try to screw you as often as humanly possible. Not always. This is although a generalization, this is the experience. These are the things that I've found as I've worked with insurance companies in the past. So keep that in mind. This is my experience. There might be some exceptions, but I haven't found them yet. So keep that in mind. Okay. So, if with minimal injuries, minimal treatment, yeah, that you can do that. You can actually negotiate that type of thing on your own. Okay. You can discuss with the insurance company. You can submit the bills, all of that stuff. So that's a factor. The next one is, do you have any prior injuries that are as a result of something else, right? Somebody hurt you in some sort of way that made this worse, right? You need someone to evaluate that and to get you the care that you deserve to put you in the position you would have been in had it not been for the negligence or the actions of another person. And that means that it gets a little more difficult. Insurance companies don't want to pay for somebody else's that's not an insured, that's somebody else's mistake that's not insured. So keep that in mind as you're dealing with this, is that the more complex the case gets, the more you need to hire an attorney for it. Okay. And that's a complexity. That's a thing that says, oh, you have a back injury from 10 years ago that you've been fighting, and now you've got another back injury. Insurance companies are going to be like, I don't want to pay that. It's all about the money for them. Okay. The next one, and this is a big one. Okay, because I need you to think about this strategically. Do you have an immediate presentation of injury? It's obvious if you've lost a limb, right? Something bad happened. As terrible as it is, that's an easy one to fix, okay? I mean, in the respect that it's obvious that you're hurt. I don't mean that to say that it's easy to fix a limb being taken. But the point is that when you're looking at liability and damages, it's easy to show, oh, I lost a finger, I lost a hand, whatever it is. And I'm not saying, but these are things that you need to consider versus a latent injury of something like, a couple of days later, your back is starting to hurt or your knee hurts from slamming it into the dashboard. So the farther away the injury presents from the accident, the more difficult it is for you to get the compensation you need, because the insurance company is going to say, well, you could have gotten that anywhere. It doesn't have to be the accident. It could be anything. You could have gotten it walking. You could have gotten it whatever, playing with your kids. Fill in the blank. The insurance company is going to find all sorts of reasons why they shouldn't pay you. Okay? Again, insurance companies are not your friend. Their goal is to avoid paying and liability. That's their goal. And so when you frame it in that sense, this is why these make sense. If you present with an immediate injury, so you've lost that, like I said, something big, it's easier to tie it to the accident. It's easier to tie it to the negligence of the other party, the person that hit you or hurt you or whatever. If that's not true, then insurance companies don't want to pay for something that didn't happen that was because of that. So whenever you're involved in an accident of any kind, get treatment right away. Even if you're like, oh, I feel fine. No, go get at least a checkup. Check, like they'll do all sorts of tests to see if there's an injury that isn't obvious. There can be injuries that are not obvious that you're going to risk on this factor. So the next one, and this is a big one. Do you have any gaps in medical treatment? Okay. So did you go to the doctor right away? If you didn't, why? What prompted you not to go to the doctor? Oh, I don't want to bother. Oh, I don't want to be... Whatever it is. And I get it. People don't like doctors. People don't like hospitals. I completely understand that. But the point is, what you don't want to do is leave it for weeks and months until you've basically told the insurance company or you've told the other party that you're not really hurt, right? When you might have been. So it's important to get checked out. And maybe you're okay, right? Maybe you're okay. But don't assume that, because there are injuries that don't show up immediately, like that same day. Like I'm saying, like the back pain, the neck pain, the arm pain, whatever it is that doesn't involve a lung, an organ, an extremity, whatever it may be. Sometimes those don't show up. But it's still important to get treatment as quick as possible after the injury, after the accident. So that's it. Those are the factors that you need to think about when you're deciding whether you can negotiate your own personal injury. More often than not, it is better to hire an attorney than not. We pay for ourselves. More often than not. Not always. That's why I gave you these lists, these things to consider. But people who hire attorneys, which, by the way, most, if not all, attorneys are what's called contingency based. So we only get paid if we recover for you. Okay? So if we don't recover anything, you're out nothing. There's no reason not to hire us. And the other thing is if you try to negotiate on your own, if you need to file a lawsuit, then you're responsible for those fees, versus as an attorney, we will front those fees and then they come out of the settlement. Okay? So that's another really good reason to do it. The next thing is, and I'll be honest with you, we know what it's like to deal with insurance companies. We know what it's like to deal with opposing parties that are difficult, that are challenging, that don't want to play nice, don't want to play fair. And so we can navigate that for you. It's more important that you get better. It's more important that you feel better soon. And so don't think, oh, well, I'm going to lose 30%. Most of the time, I'll be honest with you, most of the time the insurance company will take you for a ride because they don't want to pay. And so you're more likely to get the damages that you should get, right? This should not be more difficult than it needs to be. But it is, because insurance companies make it that way, because they don't want to pay. So my point is that we level that playing field. We make it because we're your advocate. We help you get the compensation you deserve to live as close to the life you should have lived, but for the accident. Is it going to be perfect? And I've said this in numerous of my other videos. No. The answer is no. There's no way, once you've lost an arm, that a prosthetic is going to be as good as that arm. It's just not possible. So we will do our best to get you as close to 100% as possible, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. So you need to keep that in mind, is that, do you want as close to 100% as possible, or do you only want 60, 70%? And that's usually what happens with insurance companies, because they'll try to get you to settle out for as little amount of money as possible, or they'll blame it on you, or fill in the blank. There's lots of possibilities there. So that's it. Those are the things you need to think about if you're considering negotiating your own personal injury settlement. If you've gotten value out of this video, If you've gotten thank you for showing up to my TED Talk. Wow! I can talk, I promise. If you've gotten value out of this video, don't forget to subscribe and like. Right there, that one. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.